Stopping in front of the gate of the house deep in a dark alley, Ms. Lam gave Mr. Thiep the helmet and looked inside. Mr. Chuang's house is a 4-level house with mossy tile roof, surrounded by a wall of cement surrounded. The location of the house was lowly built, so in front of the gate, a large market planted this place, making this place always sink into the dark shade even during the day. Just glancing at the house of Mr. Chuang, Mrs. Lam saw her whole body cool, the closer and the more stifling. Because not rarely receives the sun, not only the house but its owner also has a murky look. Mr. Chuang walked to the gate, his face was cold as if he looked at Mr. Thiep, and Mrs. Lam asked, "Who do you need to find?" Mr. Thiep answered, "Let me ask if this is the teacher of the teacher?" Mr. Chuang nodded. "It's me. Are you looking for anything?" Seeing Mr. Thiep and Mrs. Lam looked at each other, it seemed hard to say. Mr. Chuang said, "All right, invite my grandparents to talk." Mr. Thiep led the dream car into the yard. At this time, he had the opportunity to observe Chuang's house carefully. Outside the yard, there was a large jar of water, next to the 3 or 4 moms that were dried with dry branches and wooden pieces that Mr. Chuang introduced was the medicine. On the porch, Mr. Chuang raised a white dog with a strange red nose. Mrs. Lam walked behind Mr. Thiep. When this dog saw a stranger without giving his teeth, he stood in front of the door and looked at the 2 grandparents with a strange gaze and then walked into the corner of the porch. Inside the main space of Mr. Chuang's house, the incense smoke radiated in the altar was letting go of 2 red curtains. Unlike other self-worshipping places, incense smoke makes people feel solemnly pure. Here, Mr. Thiep and Mrs. Lam see their whole body creepy like their grandparents are visiting a dignified morning. Mr. Chuang poured water into the cup, brought to Mr. Thiep and Mrs. Lam, casually said, "The story of that child, not what I want." Mrs. Lam rolled her eyes and looked at Mr. Thiep, then asked Chuang in astonishment, "How? I know we come to ask about children." Mr. Chuang raised his eyebrows, did not answer Lam's question and continued, "At the age of grandparents, children are impossible, guessing grandparents to ask this to the children and grandparents, right?" Mr. Thiep dumbfounded nodded. "That's right. That's right. Without hiding anything from the teacher, I and my grandmother gave birth to 2 children, and a girl and a boy. The oldest daughter got married, she was the daughter's fate and did not say anything. It's just my youngest son, married for 3 years now, still have not had an acne. The hospital was not able to see this hospital, and the other daughter-in-law was still difficult to carry, so until now, saying that the family is blessed, we hope that the grandson of the road to follow the road is also very difficult, teacher. Hope you see how to help us." Mr. Thiep slightly at his wife's hands. Mrs. Lam immediately took from the pocket. The 2 highest polymers were placed on the bottom of the cup of water, pushing towards Chuang. Mr. Chuang just looked at one softly, took out a golden sheet, asked Mr. Thiep's name and the date of birth of his son and his wife, then wrote on the sheet and folded it. Mr. Chuang stood up, lifted the red curtain in front of the altar to the sides, revealing a picture behind the incense, causing Mr. Thiep and his wife to be a bit startled. The altar is the place to worship the ancestors. People often put on the poster or the photo of the previous person. But on the altar of Mr. Chuang's house, the painting of a fierce face, red eyes made the viewer feel somewhat cruel. Mr. Thiep and Mrs. Lam also did not dare to ask, only to see Mr. Chuang put a sheet on the altar, lit 3 incense sticks and pray. Moments later, Mr. Chuang asked 3 yin-yang radio, observed the hexagram and then slowly said, The husband is also married to Kung Kan. According to the palace on the 8 trigrams, it is Luke Sat, which implies that the couple gets together to kill murderous intent. About the husband and wife of the grandparents infertile because of the disease, but inevitably due to the heir of the couple. If you do not seek to change, then you will not be dreaming about death but you have a stick. Mrs. Lam immediately nudged Mr. Thiep's hand slightly. "Well, I told you that you didn't hear it." Back then, I was determined to let Tai take my son Mai, but at first, I saw that tomorrow I felt unfriendly. In the morning, my eyes have been gone, and took a few years to come to acne, and I couldn't give birth, and I looked at a grandchild. Mr. Thiep frowned, the paragraph turned to Chuang's voice softly. Yes, the truth is that my daughter-in-law is hard to carry, but still asking him how to help him give birth once. It must be the right son, but if we make up our house, our family will be absolutely lost, then there is no face and sitting with the teacher. Mr. Chuang finished listening for a while, reaching out and stroking his chin and said, "The way is actually yes, but did the grandparents dare to let the couple try it?" Mr. Thiep and Mrs. Lam could not ask. Mr. Chuang went into the chamber, took out a small porcelain jar with 2 fingers, handed it to Mr. Thiep, told, "This is Kuan Duok, which I mixed from 9 different herbs. I'll have sun exposed 40-9 days, using more water to settle, offering to min than to be 14 days. Every day, every drop in the food and drink of her daughter-in-law, telling them they are regular activities. 3 months later, if not conceived, go back to find me." Ms. Lam happily looked at Mr. Thiep, turned to Mr. Chuang to ask, "Is it true, but, why are you trying?" Mr. Chuang replied, "Kuan Duok will definitely help the daughter-in-law and grandparents give birth to a son, but there will be some side effects during pregnancy. This drug will make the mind a bit tired, easy to see the illusion, having nightmares that make the psychology become unstable. So saying, is it dare to try or not?" Mr. Thiep hesitated to look at Mrs. Lam. "It's okay, teacher, as long as you have a son. As for psychology, it is okay to make Mai's spirit." Mr. Chuang continued to tell. "Remember carefully, putting the medicine in the food and drink of my grandparents' daughter-in-law is a secret, absolutely not to let outsiders know. If not, Kuan Duok will not promote its own use. Until then, the daughter-in-law of the grandparents can give birth or not. Do not come to find me and ask." Mr. Thiep and his wife remembered Chuang's words, turned to express their desire to apologize to the medical vial just now. Mr. Chuang laughed and laughed. "Well, the grandparents kept holding home. I did not take the money, as if this was a predestined relationship. I also wanted to help my grandparents have a grandchild to bloom with the family." Saying a few more sentences, Mr. Thiep and Mrs. Lam also asked Chuang's permission to leave. Looking at the shadow of the couple and the grandparents went far away, on the cold face of Mr. Chuang suddenly appeared an unpredictable look. Mr. Thiep and Mrs. Lam have 2 children, 1 girl and 1 boy, named Tho and Tai respectively. Tho is an eldest daughter, now she is married and has a child. The house of Tho and his wife is not far from Mr. Lam's house, convenient for travel, so she often goes home to visit their biological parents. Said to visit, but every time you go home, you will have a conflict with your brother and wife. As for the youngest son of Mr. Thiep's house, he is 30 years old, taking tomorrow for more than 3 years without taking a acne. Despite running everywhere, it seems that the sky did not want Mai to have the first blood vessel, which made Mr. Lam, who did not like, even more upset his daughter-in-law. Mai is not happy, Mai's bride, even though her parents-in-law are considered to have food. Tai and Mai's wedding initially faced the fierce opposition of Mr. Lam, but with his resolute, Tai made his parents accept Mai as a bride in the house. Temporarily, the own capital has not been so much, so the Tai and his wife still live with Mr. Thiep's house, waiting for the economy of the couple to be a little stable will consider buying their own houses. Tai is a man who understands the story, knowing not only Mr. Lam, but his sister has a prejudice with Mai, so he often comforts his wife and cares little by little, making Mai feel somewhat warm. However, Mr. Thiep Mrs. Lam is a fastidious type of old man. When she knew that Mai was hard to get pregnant, her grandparents were quite rigid to her daughter-in-law. There were 2 grandparents who were planning to marry another wife for Tai, but Tai tried to protest, so grandparents also suffered. The other day, did not know who, Mr. Thiep and Mrs. Lam went to Chuang's house, sometimes an esoteric remedy for the Thai couple to produce a cute grandson. And in the following days, the attitude of Mr. Lam Mrs. Lam treated the daughter-in-law. This not only makes everyone in the house extremely surprised, but even Mai is very surprised. According to Mr. Chuang, Mr. Thmrs Lam chose to talk cleverly to Tai and Mai about the activities of the couple. At the same time, every daily meal will target Mrs. Lam's hand to cook to easily put the daughter-in-law's pharmacy in the daughter-in-law without fear of being discovered. Once Tai went down to the kitchen, saw that Lam was putting something in the soup. Lam immediately licked and said that he was spice. He did not notice much but turned to the house. Yesterday, when he saw him, he saw his parents' temperament with his daughter-in-law, and then complained. Not everyday parents glared at Mai's children, what they did not like. Why are you naturally caring for your daughter-in-law? Mr. Thiep frowned. Well, I shut up. It is about to prepare my grandchildren to hold my grandchildren, my mother, this time to see if my hands still criticize me without my nephew. Tho saw his father's satisfaction and did not want to say anything more and pouted. Particularly, Tho dislikes Mai, also because of Tai and Mai's marriage. Every time she goes home, she is born with her younger brother and husband. If not for her stubborn brother, she would not want to be this bride. On the opposite of Tho's husband, Sy always laughed happily with Mai. Every time he stopped by his parents' house, he did not take a heavy time with his sister-in-law. But Psy's eyes looked very strange, hidden deep inside as if there was an unusual thing that Sy would dare to think about. During this time, Mr. Thiep and Mrs. Lam always tried to make Mai happy. Mrs. Lam said tomorrow to go to work, tired, housework, no need to worry anymore, and lunch she has cooked to bring. Lam took the reason that eating outside was not hygienic, it was necessary to eat food and drink she was prepared. Mai has never felt happy like this. The fact that Mr. and Mrs. Thiep longed for a grandchild have long made Mai very pressure. But it seems that this time her mood is better, maybe she can get pregnant? Thinking of the birth of the child who was welcomed and the changing gaze of people made Mai excited, but she still did not know the darkness of the ghost and fear was preparing to pour on the head of her family. So just 2 months later, the unexpected thing is that Mai has been successful. Holding the doctor's certificate in hand, Tai hurriedly rushed into the house to cheer like a child when he knew he was about to be a father. The whole family of Mr. Thiep and Mrs. Lam, everyone was overjoyed, and only smiled and smiled faintly. It is normal, disgusting, so pampered by my parents-in-law like that without being pregnant, it is strange. Sy next to nudity into his wife's hand. Behold, you are pregnant tomorrow, I have to share fun. Turning to Thailand and Mai said. That's right, later, you will make a meal as if I welcomed my child, my whole family tonight. Tai and Mai smiled and nodded in agreement. Mai looked happy with Tai. On the gentle face of Sy suddenly appeared an unhappy feature, as he himself did not want to but had to try to be happy. Besides, Ms. Lam looked at Mr. Thiep slightly, so the Kuan of Mr. Chuang has promoted half of the work done, now only waiting for the next good news. From the time she knew she was pregnant, Mai was both happy and felt insecure in her. Somehow, these days, she constantly encountered very terrible nightmares, so scared that when she woke up sweating, she was still scattered on her forehead. Mai talked to Mai, but Tai only thought it was because her wife was pregnant, so she was tired and weak. Mr. Thiep and Mrs. Lam also encouraged her daughter-in-law. Lam also said that when she was pregnant with Tho and Tai, there were nights that could not sleep, comforting Mai that it was just a few common signs in pregnancy. Being encouraged by her husband's family, Mai also feels somewhat reassuring. But today, when he put his back on the bed, Mai suddenly shouted in a shouting and shocked voice. What's wrong? Tomorrow, tomorrow. Mai's face was pale at this time, she pointed to the window, feared in the interruption. Mr. Tai, outside the window, there was a child hanging back, on the branch. His head is very big, he rolled his eyes at his husband and wife's room. Mai pulled the blanket and then lying in a huddled corner, Tai saw that his wife trembled and turned a little bit. He went to the window and looked out. Of course, there is nothing outside. Mr. Thiep mango planted next to the tall house is equivalent to the floor where the Thai couple is still lying dormant in the dark. A few winds occasionally hit the interstitial leaves, creating a rustling sound in the deserted night. Sounds creepy. Tai hurriedly closed the window, then turned into the bed to comfort his wife that it must be a mistake of Mai. Perhaps the desire to have a child has made Mai a bit obsessed, so the spirit of the spirit is so crushed. Ken his wife for a long time. Both Tai and Mai turned off the lights to sleep. Mai also had to believe in Tai and her parents-in-law about her encountered in the evening. But Mai not only saw that scary thing a day too, a nightmare about a red baby still crawled the umbilical cord under the floor and suddenly rushed towards her face, making Mai's spirit more and more exhausted. The culmination of tonight, both Tai and Mai couple have a nap. Mai has heard the strange noises in the couple's room. The sound became growing, making Mai unable to sleep. Turning to Thailand was still asleep like death. Mai was about to call Tai to check if there was any insect snuggled in a closet, but Tai was still lying still like a corpse waiting to bring cold graves. Mai was annoyed, although she was a little afraid of insects, but she was determined to get out of bed looking for an obnoxious animal to ruin her sleep. Following the nightlight, Mai slowly walked towards the closet, the noise of the buds in the dry night like a coffin. Mai was scared to hold the cupboard, closing her eyes because she was afraid to open her wings that she saw it again as a strange face that should not exist in this. Take a deep breath, open the door tomorrow. Inside, nothing but clothes. Mai relieved her relief. Suddenly she felt the back of her neck was cool, turned back looking, Mai howling. A pale, thin child but a big head hanging upside down on the ceiling. The eyes of the baby exuded a creepy red light. His teeth were overlapping and overlapping his fangs, his rotten face lifted up a disgusting fishy smell. The baby jumped into the morning, then suddenly opened his mouth as if he wanted to swallow her alive into his stomach. Mai, tomorrow, wake up, honey. What's wrong? The eyes were open to look forward. Mai realized that Tai had just called himself to wake up. Tai gently stroked his wife's forehead and asked. Terrible, I dreamed that my hair was sweaty like this, and said it. It turned out that just now was just a dream, but Mai hurriedly snuggled into the Tai trembling as about to cry. Brother. I dreamed ghosts. Still that child, obviously he haunted you. Tai hugged his wife, although he had heard about the scary thing she encountered, but the stance of a young man after the materialism was like he never believed in the invisible world. Tai rubbed his wife's back, soothing. I'm so tired and look at chicken hua night or miscellaneous. Come on, don't go to work tomorrow, but I look like this, I'm impatient. Mai knew her husband's nature, so she did not dare to say anything more. All night she tightened into Tai arms and sleepless until the morning. In the next day, Mai had to ask the company to take a break because she was still tired of the night. She brought this to tell everyone in the house, then finished listening and pouted. It's terrible, in the land of my ancestors, you still see those evil things? Or do you mean my house is haunted? Mai hurriedly waved her hand. No, I don't mean that. But I see it. That baby. I have seen it several times. Mrs. Lam beside her eyes, remembered Chuang's words about the side effects of Quan Duok, and encouraged. It's okay, don't worry too much. Since being a daughter-in-law has been more than 3 years now, it must be because of the desire to have children, so it will be haunted a bit. Later, my mother went to Mr. Lang's house to go to the house, pick some cigarettes to drink for a relaxed spirit. Mai yes nodded, but in her heart, she felt more insecure than ever. If only once or twice said, but she constantly encountered the devil baby from pregnancy until now, there was certainly something unusual. Strictly, No one in the family understood Mai's mood right now, maybe just waiting for the day her child was born. Thinking so, Mai also reassured herself to have the most stable spirit to give birth. Tomorrow is pregnant until the 14th week. Mr. T. Lam's family has results in the gender of the fetus. And as Mr. Chuang's promise, the fetus in the abdomen is exactly a son. This made Mr. Thiep and Mrs. Lam happy to cry. Later, to see if there is anyone who dares to say Mr. Tuet's house, that the son-in-law of his daughter-in-law is given birth again. Now every time the death anniversary of the family does not worry about being discussed that his family has no nephew to follow, Mr. theorizing his head for his grandchildren to respect his son. Often the mother's pregnancy will end in the last trimester of the 3 trimesters divided during 9 months and 10 days. But from pregnancy until Mai's labor only takes place only 7 months 7 days. When Mai was put into the hospital, the doctors were surprised to see a new pregnant woman more than 7 months pregnant and showed signs of giving birth. Mai's abdomen is relatively as other pregnant women who are about to give birth. The fetal ultrasound results are completely normal. The maternity doctors of Mai are worried. The baby who is born in a month may have a health problem or have to be hospitalized longer than those who are born months. Not only about the health of the fetus, it is also a problem for the mother who is screaming in the delivery room. In addition to the corridor at this time, Mr. Thiep and Mrs. Lam stopped sitting impatiently. Tai clasped his hands back and walked back and forth, and his arms were so broken. The couple Tho and Sy called to ask, then said when the work was completed at the office will come later. The pain of the woman who passed away was both painful but also happy. More than an hour passed by Tai and Mr. Thiep and his wife, which lasted the whole century. The moment the baby's birth was also when Tai broke up and happy. Mr. Thiep also hugged Mrs. Lam even though the eyes were struggling to look at the doctors and nurses outside when witnessing the 2 old grandparents happy like children. Moments later, when the doctor's permission, Mr. Thiep and Tai and his wife were able to visit Mai and the baby. Tai came to Mai's bed, gracefully fisting to ask his wife. Mr. Thiep and Mrs. Lam hugged the baby to rub her, and turned to whisper to each other. Really talented, Mr. Chuang is really talented. Take a bit of medicine and tell me to be born immediately, and my son is also out. Clown, I was very suspicious at first, but from the time I was pregnant, I believed. Good, recognized as good teacher. Mr. Thiep turned to his grandchildren in his arms, clicking his tongue. Well, later the destination grew up so that the other lady remembered so that he could hold the sticky rice. Joko looked at his mouth, like his father was sculpted, his sister. The baby's eyes were still closed, suddenly opened, widening all the whites looking at Mr. Thiep, then immediately closed. That lightning fast moment made Ms. Lam beside panic. Why, it just opened his eyes. It just opened his eyes. Mother's saying made the Tai and Mr. Thiep spinning surprised. Mr. Thiep immediately frowned. It is true that, what kind of child will open his eyes? Eyes with nose rolls. These days she kept putting her head on the television. Ui grandmother said unjustly to his grandchildren, grandmother rated. Mrs. Lam was dumbfounded. Obviously earlier her eyes saw that her grandson had just rolled her eyes. Why was it so strange? Mrs. Lam shook her head and did not think more. Maybe as if Mr. Thiep said, she's sometimes dizzy, sometimes people even laughed for the nose, not joking. Mr. Thiep and Mrs. Lam named the baby and was satisfied with the Thai couple, so the whole family happily filled out the new member's name on the birth certificate. At home, the name was Tid. Then, from this time, it was the grandchildren who respect the son of Mr. Thiep's house, growing up to shoulder his property and made a name for the family. Thinking about Mr. Thiep was so happy that he almost jumped up, constantly talking about his grandchild's open future even on the way to bring Mai's discharge home. But from now on, the disaster and mourning like a dark cloud is pulling back to the spacious house of Mr. Thiep, engulfing the joy of his family's joy into the deep and terrible pit of despair and horror. Since the birth of Tid, Mai has no longer encountered nightmares like the last few nights. Watching the childbearing child sleep obediently in his mother's arms, Mai felt very reassuring. Stealing Tit did not fuss in the middle of the night. When he was full of milk, he fell asleep. However, there were a few nights lying next to me, Mai kept feeling cold spine without understanding for what reason. A day before the lullaby Tit slept, Mai was startled and panicked because he saw his child's skin suddenly turn dark blue, full of black veins all over his body. When she calmed down the soul, she turned out to be wrong. Tit's skin was still ruddy, exuding the health of her cute son. Today is the full month of Tit. Mr. Thiep's house made some rice tray to worship ancestors. In the evening, the members of Mr. Thiep's family were all present. Sy also came to share the joy with his brother-in-law's family. According to the customs, Mr. Thiep's house arranged a tray of worshipping mew including the trio of boiled shrimp, boiled eggs and boiled pork, 12 bowls of small areca flower tea, 3 large bowls of tea, 13 dishes, and a chicken. The teacher worshipped the monthly ceremony for Tit to read the essay, released 2 coins to ask 3 yin-yang radio. The teacher looked at the hexagram just sewed down, dumbfounded and said, why is this? Seeing the amazing expression of the priest, Mr. Thiep came to ask. Yes. What's the matter? The teacher narrowed her eyes, inside the couple who had experienced for many years of the ceremony to shine a glance that made Mr. Thiep show an insecure. The teacher hesitantly answered. What, let me say frankly, my family, don't accept this baby. The words of the teacher just said that the whole family of Mr. Thiep was mighty. Before she could see the head of the tail, suddenly a loud voice cut across people startled. What? My wife had an accident. Where? Everyone turned to fear, because the voice was Sy. He was on the phone with a white face without a drop of blood. Sy unconsciously dropped the phone to the ground. The whole person fell down like a boneless person. His mouth told him to come out a sentence forever. Though. My wife and children have an accident. Dead. Like a lightning strike across the ear, the whole family of Mr. Thiep opened his mouth and stood dead. Tai rushed to support his brother-in-law. Mr. Thiep also rushed to shout. I said, what is miscellaneous? Didn't you apply it to me? But quickly Mr. Thiep muttered. That's right, it's already evening, my mother should have come here? Sy immediately moved to the motorbike, just checked the keys into the car lock, just crying. I don't know, it is said that now my mother and I have an accident next to the construction site. You have to go there right away. After saying that, Sy hurriedly launched the gate to go away. Ms. Lam heard the news directly, lying unconscious. The teacher beside him said. The whole family is calm, everyone can go. Mrs. Lam at my house looks. Turning to hold Mai's hand. You two, you have just given birth to a baby for a month, should not go to such places. Mr. Thiep and Tai urgently followed, both of the hot guts like fire burned, silently praying to the Buddha for Mother Tho to not be too serious. Everyone gone, the priest looked at Tit lying in Mai's hand. This child, obviously something was very strange, so far to worship for so many houses, but she never felt scared like now. The monthly ceremony for children is a sacred beauty, wishing for the baby to be good and peaceful. But at that time, the teacher suddenly gave birth to a felt creepy, as if something was unclean, hiding inside the baby, waiting for the opportunity to take the life of each one in the house. Mai was still blankly worried, when her phone crashed, was the number of Tai called. And as Sy said earlier, both mother and daughter died. The teacher took a deep breath, took a written word and gave it to Mai to read, put her finger in front of her mouth and signaled silent as if she did not want something in this house to hear. Mai looked at the sheet. Behind her nape was not self-control but emerged every piece of thorns. The priest wrote. Her family is more likely to be haunted by evil. Must find some teacher who takes a high hand about the deadline. After reading, the teacher immediately lit the fire. Mai was confusing to ask. When the teacher rolled her eyes and pulled her hand across her mouth, she could not speak. Her eyes were constantly looking at the tit, but in her heart, she was afraid of being afraid. Though mother and mom should have been at home from the afternoon to celebrate the monthly ceremony with everyone in the house. But Tho did not like his sister-in-law, nor did he want to participate in the full ceremony that month, so when he took his daughter to go home, Tho did not take his children to his parents' house, and went to another road to go home. However, when the pass was passing through an empty junction, suddenly the lights were short, turning a whole road in darkness. Apply the car light, but a terrible scene suddenly appeared right before her eyes, causing her to shudder. A red kid crawled on the road, saw that Tho's car light, immediately laughed and laughed. The baby had a very big, bald head, where his forehead was like a dark blue blood. His skin was as white as the chalk, the corners of the eyes pulled a pair of red eyeballs like blood to the ear, the two pupils were slightly red, full of blood. Baby jumping on the head of Tho's motorbike, the mouth was very big, and made Tho scream terrifying, when he opened his mouth immediately to reveal a pile of teeth alternating together to the people. Applying to the steering wheel panicked, but immediately hit the gate of a construction site. The motorbike scooter still followed inertia, causing both mother and daughter to rush into a pile of jagged steel inside. The stiff steel pierced into Tho's daughter's eyes, continuing to pierce the baby's head and then hit Tho's heart to the back. Bloody gore splashed 4 times, Tho and her mother died on the spot. The people besides that, when hearing Tho's screams and strong collision, ran but late. The scene was extremely pitiful and terrible that everyone did not dare to look. Some people were so scared and had a breathing increase, some people turned to vomit. Some people are more brave, then go to see the handbag, bring with the phone searcher to call relatives, while others call the functional person to solve. Mr. Thiep and Tai arrived, seeing SY stood still like a lost soul. Witnessing that catastrophic scene, the father and son of Mr. Thiep screamed crazy, trying to lean over to Tho and his mother, and painfully. People had to stop those 2 men, because they were afraid they would struggle into the cold iron and steel at the scene. The government leaked back the camera recording the scene of the accident of Tho and her mother, only to see that Tho was walking on the road, suddenly panicked and screwed strongly into the construction site. They concluded that this was an unintended accident that should let relatives bring mother and daughter to the burial house. The 2 coffins also smelled the wooden oil neatly placed in the middle of the house of SY couple, inside the body of mother Tho. Tho was constantly rushing on the gas. No one dares to look at those 2 bodies, because it is not only a sympathy for the ill-fated mother and son but also a terrible obsession. Tho's daughter has pierced one side of her eyes, piercing her head, causing the brain to shoot out. When putting it into the Mandarin, people must be very wary of fear of just a little strong, the brain and bones inside the brain will follow that hole. Tho's condition is not much better than a girl. The evil steel outside the construction site has pierced her daughter's head, and continued to pierce her own heart. Bloody dyed red, the body applied to the unpleasant fishy smell, only suffering for the shrouds. If there was no strong psychology, they would be soon because of these images that haunted foolishly. Worrying for the funeral of the mother and daughter to apply, not only the family in Sai's house but the whole of Mr. Thiep's family fell into the dark pit. Tho's death and his daughter made Lam's spirit go down completely. Now every time I step into that spacious house, the family's atmosphere was cut by the mourning hair, the daughter and grandchildren happily reunited every day, only the yin and yang. Parents lost their daughter, husband lost his wife losing a child, the youngest brother lost his sister and grandchild. There was no word to describe the extreme grief in Mr. Thiep's family. From the time he took his mother and daughter to burial, SY kept sitting in a corner. Whoever called it was not sparse, everyone came to encourage and comfort and let SY alone. Perhaps the death of his wife and daughter was an irreversible shock that made him now like an insane person. But no one knows the external appearance of the son-in-law is hiding something in his head. Today is 100 days of death of Tho and his daughter, Mr. Lam and Mrs. Lam, and the Thai couple are present at Sai's house. After the tray was finished, Mai carried Tit into the worship space for her husband to compress the incense. The day he was still alive, he knew that he had prejudice to him, but Mai had never expressed an excessive attitude towards her husband. Now that, although that person has turned the ancient, Mai still keeps the magic of a younger brother visiting the soul of the ill-fated sister. Entering the place of worship of Tho and her mother, Mai suddenly creeped in the thorn. This feeling made Mai both scared and annoyed with Tai. She said the story the other day, the priest who worshipped the monthly ceremony to tell the family to invite the teacher to listen to her husband, but Tai did not believe it. He thought that the teacher was playing tricks to cheat money. Tit obediently sat in his mother's lap. When he arrived in front of the altar of Mother Tho, his eyes suddenly stretched out, spinning the whole black heart, and disappeared. Mai did not discover this. She only saw her whole body cool. That murky feeling made her quickly return to the living room to sit and talk to her family. Everyone sitting around the category in the middle of the house, Mr. Thiep spoke to SY. Parents know this does not want to happen, as if it was so much that it would be like that. Mother and mother, though, not only the family, but also the parents' family is also miserable. Although it is heartbreaking, but parents want to tell their children, it is delicate but actually can't look like this. SY nodded slightly. My parents said, please listen. Mrs. Lam looked at Mr. Thiep, then turned to say. Now having children, Tai and his wife here, parents always say. I am also young. Saying the spirit of my mother and my mother, if I have a story, I will not blame me at all. Just wait for the end of my wife and children anyway. The Thai couple also agreed. SY bowed his head moodily. Yes, but, maybe I haven't thought about it either. The whole family of Thiep looked at the mercy for the son-in-law to understand that thought. But no one saw SY. Just glancing at Mai, the corner of his lips bloomed slightly to the point of attempting. Heaven knew in the head of the husband who had just lost both his wife and children was thinking about what. Mai is a beautiful girl, not only her face but her body is quite balanced. Tomorrow is gentle, hard-working, only entangled in her family situation is not quite good, but it is difficult to find a point to criticize the daughter-in-law of Mr. Thiep. Perhaps because of that, despite being married, there are many times tomorrow the young men outside teased, making Tai jealous of purple. And not only outside, in the family that seemed to be peaceful, there was also a pair of eyes that always watched Mai's gestures with a dark gaze. Although this story was broken, Mr. Thiep's house dug down the hole and did not stop shame, those evil eyes still did not leave the sexy body of the only bride in the house. From the days when Tai led Mai to debut, SY was fascinated with Mai. The delicate face, thin lips adorned on the light white skin. SY had never regretted like that at that time. SY regrets himself to blame why that day took the woman who was both ugly and ugly as though, while meeting Mai for the first time, SY truly felt the vibration. It is responsible for heaven. Now Mai has been the wife of his brother-in-law, his sister-in-law. The distance in the house has separated SY with Mai. He only knows how to look at Mai with the craving eyes and always find ways to be close to his sister-in-law. That afternoon, Mr. Thiep and Mrs. Lam went anywhere. Tai were working on the company, only Mai's mother and daughter at home. Alone with his son a few months old in that large house, Mai felt extremely scared. Every time I remembered the red child hanging upside down on the ceiling, Mai felt her spine cold. Feeling just having a strong noise made her soul fly away. Mai lulled Tit to sleep and went to the bathroom to wash her children, but just left the room, a sound emitted from the bedroom made her startled. What is it? In the bedroom, there is also a mouse. Mai was about to turn into the review, suddenly trembling, because that noise was familiar, as she had heard somewhere. The echoing cleft annoying made Mai remember the monstrous sound in the dream when Tit's pregnancy. The chest drum was pounding and slowly walking into the room for a fear of having something to disturb the sleeping child. She turned on the light switch, the bright room showing right before her eyes. That strange noise stopped, just. Tid has disappeared from the cradle. Mai panicked hurriedly to find her child. When she turned her face back, a big head hit Mai's face, making her shout in horror. A child upside down on his two-legged ceiling hanging on the door of the room, his hands grabbed his head, then suddenly ripped his bloody skin to the sides, revealing a white brain block surrounded by bloody blood. The terrible scene that made Mai unable to breathe. She horribly ran up but only went out to the living room, fainting. The evil baby also fell to the ground. He walked slowly step by step approaching the young mother lying on the floor, laughing at the guest and rolled his eyes to the fierce. At this moment, there was a sound outside the gate that made the baby turn to the alley. SY was standing at the gate of the bell. Today SY came to bring a little massage to Mr. Thiep because the other day saw him complaining about the pain chronic. But the main purpose he came was to peek at Mai. In recent months because of his wife's busy morning, he did not have time to look at his beautiful sister-in-law. Pressing forever no one opened the door. SY was about to call when suddenly closing the gate of Mr. Thiep's house suddenly splashed out. He felt very strange but also took the car into the house. Calling forever without seeing anyone answered, guessed about the two grandparents went somewhere, so SY brought the tall jar to the table to drink water in the living room and called their father-in-law. But when he first walked on the doorstep, SY was startled when he saw Mai lying on the floor. He rushed to help. Mai woke up and called out loudly but Mai was still lying still like death. SY trembled and put his hand on Mai's nose and relieved to breathe. Mai still breathed evenly, looking like she was sleeping soundly without knowing heaven and earth. SY once again called Mr. Lam, but in response he was just a solemn silence in the spacious house of his parents-in-law. Suddenly, both the hot doctor, looking at Mai lying on the ground, in his mind suddenly outlined a dark intention. To be more sure, SY tried to pinch it in his sister-in-law, but ultimately did not react. He was closer again, shaking Mai's shoulder, not seeing any new movement. SY smiled cleverly. At that time, SY had the opportunity to get close to Mai like that, the girl who looked worn out, her hair behind her head, smooth white skin, and lipstick lips were pale lipstick. SY in the eyes is that the body just glanced at it and felt heartbreaking. Mai was carrying a pajamas at home, but could not cover every deadly curve winding on the body of the young mother. Tomorrow, you know? From the moment I saw you for the first time I had already loved you. What does Thai guy have? Do you know the day when I got in the car with him, I choked up every bowel. Why not you? Why did you waste your life on that damn old female? SY muttered like a psychiatrist. He began to search for Mai's button, opened a button, revealing Mai's white chest. Sai's face was flushed. He looked no different from a wild animal in hunger. The blind sex has turned the conscience of SY buried in the dark mud, down to her sister-in-law. SY was crazy, his eyes filled with blood, his mouth constantly speaking alone in the unconscious. Give me once, even if someone discovered he was pleased. Oh no, what to do, there's no one who can discover it. On his mouth, he suddenly had a cold smile. He opened to Mai's second button when he stopped, walking into the kitchen to find a fruit knife. Obviously, holding the animal he is about to do with Mai will surely be discovered, until then not only facing the scene of imprisonment, social condemnation, but he will never be close to each other again. Once after this, he will kill Mai. It is better to let Mai die more than every day looking at Mai with happiness that makes him itchy eyes, extremely uneasy. But an unintended thing happened. SY had just walked away from the kitchen. His ears suddenly heard a strange sound emanate somewhere in the house. That noise was very strange, like the sound of washing limbs, or sounded like something slippery was crawling on the floral tiles. The sound and closer to SY, also curious to see, he firmly holding the knife and crept close to the wall. He opened his eyes to look at the corridor. Unlike what SY thinks, no one or anything out there, but the friction of his thorns still loits around the ears of SY. Breathing out attention, SY turned into Din to continue the unfinished work. Suddenly, SY shuddered on the ground, because in front of him was a baby with two peeing irises dangling, the blue-gray skin full of purple veins. Blood and black fluid were rushing out from the 5 officials on the face. The most terrifying head is twice as big as ordinary children. When it bent down, the top of the head cracked, revealing that the inside was a small skull with a fist, but the surrounding was a bunch of bugs filled with brain cavity. SY was afraid of his face. The helpless knife fell to the ground, his whole body suddenly soft as a vermicelli, his throat choked out without making a voice. The child crawled closer to SY, his speed was very fast, seemingly blinking in front of SY to open his mouth full of sharp teeth, threatening him to fear trembling. In horror, SY suddenly realized that this child's face was very familiar, even SY once saw it, because it was the head of the Thai and my couple. But why is it so horrible now? It is impossible, it's just a child a few months old, why is it so disgusting? Everything in Sai's head was confused like silk, he could not think any more because the fear had reigned the mind of the bastard man. At this moment, there was the sound of motorbikes outside the gate. Mr. Thiep and Mrs. Lam went somewhere. SY seemed to catch a ray of hope to live, trying to crawl back to the door to escape the evil child. Looking back, Tid had disappeared. Suddenly, the whole SI trembled, his mouth gasped as if he wanted to open all the way, his face became white, the corners of his eyes twitched violently. Mr. Thiep and Mrs. Lam this afternoon came to Mr. Chuang's house to ask him to come to the ceremony, just when Mr. Chuang was away. The couple and the grandparents were waiting for an hour in the alley to see Mr. Chuang, asking to know that the teacher today went to worship in the side of the next commune, so he arrived at home. When I heard the story of Tang Ma in Mr. Thiep's family, Mr. Chuang's face did not appear a little surprised, just told him to go through the 2 grandparents a few things and promised to come in a few days. Mr. Lam later left. When he came home, he came into the yard to see SY dully going to the garden. Mr. Thiep also did not pay attention to the lifeless face like the death of his son-in-law, and took the car in and spoke. SY, huh, it's time for me, have you brought a bottle of CAO dad thanks to buying? SY did not answer. Mrs. Lam next to him suddenly pulled Mr. Thiep's sleeve, her eyes still did not leave SY in surprise. Behold, how? Sai's gate. The 2 grandparents were stunned to look at the figure of their son-in-law, because SY was walking and tiptoe and stiffened face without any emotions. Mr. Thiep and Mrs. Lam looked at each other, then followed SY to the garden. Out to the place, Mr. Thiep and Mrs. Lam opened their mouths to see SY squatting in the garden and putting the soil into their mouths. Mr. Thiep rushed towards his son-in-law, and shouted loudly. SY, what are you doing? Why do you pick up the garden? SY suddenly turned his head again, making both grandparents startled, a pair of white striped pupils filled with blood, wet hair like bathing, cold skin cold to horror. Mrs. Lam hurriedly hugged Mr. Thiep's arm, and SY did not pick up the land anymore, and he quietly entered the house. Mr. Thiep was shocked with the strange attitude of his son-in-law, but he still ran to patted Sai's shoulder. SY, wake up, why is it like this? SY turned his head, his cold eyes swept across, causing Mr. Thiep to build his hair. Give up, it's not your job. SY hid his voice, that voice seemed to be mixed with a certain voice. Suddenly, SY, Mr. Thiep's hand, ran into the house. Mr. Thiep and Mrs. Lam could not think much, hurriedly chased after. When he first entered the guests, the 2 grandparents immediately saw my lying unconscious, and SY ran up the stairs towards the terrace. How are you seeing my child? I chased SY. Mr. Thiep only left a sentence and Fi went straight to the stairs. Mrs. Lam saw that her daughter-in-law lying motionless also rushed to consider. While laying and clicking on the middle, calling several times, Mai also woke up. Mrs. Lam could not ask what happened to her daughter-in-law, she heard the screams on the terrace of Mr. Thiep. Oh my God, baby. Immediately after that was a heavy fall on the ground. Ms. Lam and Mai looked at each other pale. The mother and daughter helped each other out of the yard, dumbfounded. SY fell from the terrace to death without closing their eyes. Mr. Thiep's scared scream resounded, making Lam and Mai so scared that his limbs trembled. When I was determined to be both of them shouted to touch the neighbors around. Mr. Thiep also ran from the terrace down to the crouch. "Oh my God, why are you so foolish?" The neighbors rushed to run. Everyone was terrified of the body lying in the yard. SY fell down from the third-floor terrace, his head hit Mr. Thiep's rockery in the middle of the yard, crushed like a watermelon was thrown from above to the ground. Blood spilled into the stone blocks and water tanks next to the wall. The mossy color on the foot of the dark green wall is also a red blood color. The death of the mother and daughter has only been applied for the first 100 days, the grave is not cold, but now the husband also follows. No one understands that the whole family of SY family is happening to be a terrible thing, but one after another, the husband and children in turn to the other side of the world. The most miserable is Mrs. Lam. The pain of losing her daughter, grandchildren are still gnawing at every soul. The son-in-law continues to lie down, leaving a spacious 3-story house is no longer a home but now only cries, sobbing soaked with resentment. Take Tian Tan.